What's up, guys? We are back with another NECA Toys review, and a bit of an unexpected one as well, because there has been no sign of these figures ever since they went up for pre-order, and then they just suddenly started hitting at local shops. Well, at least one of them has anyway. We're taking a look at the NECA Dungeons & Dragons GRIMSWORD. Now, I know, myself included, a lot of people are more interested in Warduke of the two, but I am no less excited to take a look at this guy just because it's something a little bit entirely different from NECA. Maybe something that I can fudge into Mythic Legions a little bit. We will see. Of course, this comes in a pretty standard NECA style package. It's an ultimate package, so you've got some artwork of GRIMSWORD there on the front with the evil action figure call out in the corner, which I love. You've got some product shots on the spine, and then the back of the box gives us more product shots, cross-sell with Warduke, and then a very 80s sort of simplified bio for this guy also, but being a ultimate style package, that means he has the Velcro flap, so you can pop that open. You got a shot of the figure there in the inner flap, and then in the big window we have our surprisingly large action figure. I'm really curious to check this guy out now that I really see just how big this thing is. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, NECA's Dungeons & Dragons GRIMSWORD figure. A very interesting piece because, I mean, frankly, this is a huge, huge figure, and I had no idea he was actually going to be this big. And then, of course, there's also that retro component of this guy because, of course, this line for NECA is their reimagining of the old LJN figures. And while these guys don't have battle-matic action, they did a pretty solid job of translating that old figure into something new. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. He's definitely on the more basic side, I'll say, when it comes to NECA stuff because of his design. So we've got a head that can look up pretty good. He can look down a little bit, but only so far. He's basically sort of, going slightly down. We've got tilt, we've got full rotation. Arms go out at the shoulders. They're of course going to rotate. We've got a bicep swivel up there. Single jointed elbows. They go about 90 degrees. They also have some swivel in them also. You've got swivel hinges at the wrist. The torso, however, is really locked down because of this, I'm assuming it's an overlay piece that sits over top of whatever construction is inside, and he can only sort of bobble and twist. There's not really much of anything in terms of a crunch on this guy. Legs go out really, really well. Very smooth. Had no issues with joints on this guy. Forward about that far. They're going to go backwards a good bit also. You got your thigh twist. Single jointed, swiveling knees here. You get basically, well, not 90, but it's decent for a big guy. Swiveling knees. And then you've got swivel at the ankle. Then there's a little bit of rocker here, and there's a little bit of hinge. It's not tons, but it's enough. I'm really happy to see that he has that independent ankle swivel down there also, in addition to the rocker and the hinge. So this guy, like I said, he's kind of on the basic side. He's definitely a much, much larger and, of course, armored figure than we're used to. So if anything, he's very Mythic Legions-esque, but is not exactly that across the board. Visually, though, is what I'm most interested in with this figure. I'm very much approaching this guy as if he were a Mythic Legions because I kind of expected he was going to have that kind of articulation. And then it's all about the looks for me because not only is this a nasty, dark, evil-looking knight character, he is rooted in a real-world toy that already exists. So there's a lot to get right and a lot to get wrong with this guy if he's not, reinterpreted well. And NECA absolutely killed it. I don't think there's any real expectation otherwise here. They tend to do homage figures really, really well. And this is one of those, of course, because this is the LJN figure reimagined for a modern figure line. And I think they nailed it. I don't have one for comparison. I never have, never will. Not my thing. But this guy, this interpretation, this version, this humongous GRIMSWORD, I think looks great. They got all the details right, all the different color schemes, the black, the pitted nature of this armor, the asymmetrical design, all of this snake stuff, because why not? Our evil knight also has to be a snake fetishist, so he's got, the snake that wraps around the torso, which terminates in the actual sheath for the sword, which I think is a really cool idea. And we've got the snake knee pad here. You've got the asymmetrical design with the pointed pad here, the big shoulder pad over this way. And just this color scheme works really, really well. silver, black, red, with a little bit of green here and there. It works really, really nicely for this guy. And again, he is enormous, and we're going to do a size comparison here in just a bit to give you an idea of what he's going to stack up with. But he's an evil, nasty looking guy. Tons of paint all over him, tons of sculpt. Everything is pitted and textured and weathered and worn. And then you've got his crazy, crazy head sculpt up here, which of course makes him look evil, makes him look incredibly mysterious, because all you get are those hits of like fiery eyes under there. These spikes on the head are movable. I recall the vintage figure sort of being like out and down, not straight down, but like sort of at an angle. So you can sort of have them like that. But I think they look really cool pointed straight up also. So if you want, you've got options. And then of course he's got a mohawk up top as well, because why not? So I think it's pretty clear they absolutely killed the visuals of this guy. It's a really nice reinterpretation of that classic figure. And then, of course, our size comparison. So we've got GRIMSWORD there in the middle. We've got another NECA figure on the right. So this is a Predator figure, and you can see that he is, basically the same height, and Predator figures always skew a little large. And then we've got a Mythic Legions here on the left, which I was really thinking this guy was going to be able to be peppered into Legions a little bit more, and I'm not so sure it's going to be that easy. But you get an idea of here. I will say that I do believe GRIMSWORD is going to be a larger than average figure. I don't think Warduke is this tall, so he's kind of a special case in that they made him a little bit larger and beefier and a little bit more evil just by increasing the size a little bit. And then let's do another NECA, so we'll move Predator side. Here is Toon Leo, and of course, he's just absolutely dwarfed by GRIMSWORD. And then let's move this guy aside, and here is a Marvel Legends for a 1/12. There's US Agent, so he's quite small in all respects. And then let's take Leo aside for one last one, another Marvel Legends, but something that scales a little bit bigger, and it's just an all-around larger figure. There's the Build-A-Figure, the Controller, so he's taller than the Controller, but he's not as bulky, but you get an idea of how he's going to look. Alongside 1/12 stuff, he's absolutely in an entire different scale, but then he's also super, super tall and beefy. Now, as far as accessories goes, GRIMSWORD comes with the same loadout that the vintage figure had, but he gets a bunch of extra hands as well. So to start with, we do have 8 total hands, so you get 4 sets. We get a set of gripping hands. You get a set of fists. We get a set of gripping, relaxed, open palm-ish kind of hands. And then we get a set of, they're sort of trigger fingery, but you can definitely use them as just a pointing finger because, of course, he does not come with any guns because look at him. And then he gets a few weapons. So to start with, we do get his sword. It's got a pretty unique design, shape, color scheme looks good, a color scheme matches him. And like I said, this gets stored inside the snake tail on his belt there, which I think is just a really cool idea when it comes to weapon storage because it naturally integrates the armor. We get the snake mace, which is, it's a big cobra with its tongue sticking out, the whole 9 yards with a real metal chain and a very, very spiky ball on the end. I absolutely love this, mostly because it is just so ridiculous. But it also works, it also works really well as a weapon here. But my favorite accessory that he gets is his crazy, crazy shield. So we get the big snake head shield. This thing fits over top of the forearm on the figure. And then you've got the 2 grips here. And it sits pretty well. I've had no issues with it coming off or anything like that. But it just looks great. This big relief snake head on there. It's a humongous shield, as you can see, just based on the size of the figure. Great paint applications, great detail, just a cool design, and it makes him look infinitely more menacing when he's covered from head to toe in both armor and weapons with snakes. So yeah, overall, really, really happy with GRIMSWORD. He is not a perfect figure, but he's very much what I expected him to be. He's very Mythic Legions-esque in some ways. He is a little bit limited on articulation because we got a lot of single joints. His design in many ways just doesn't allow for much more because he's got those pads all over the joints, but he looks tremendous. Again, I can't stress the fact that he is probably much larger than you expected him to be, because I don't really think we've seen a whole lot in terms of scale for these guys. We just kind of assume normal NECA size, but then he ends up being incredibly big and bulky, but he looks great. He has some really fantastic accessories, and it's a great reinterpretation, reimagining of that vintage figure, of that vintage design in a very menacing, collector-focused line. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons and GRIMSWORD. Let me know what you guys think Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.